Hello, everyone. Today we are continuing on looking at the concept of motivation, but we are looking specifically at the concept of rewards. So before we get started, let's dive into our terminology that we are using. A reward is an outcome that has some sort of positive value to either an individual or a group. All right, so when we talk about rewards, again, it doesn't say something physical here. It says an outcome that has a positive value. So let's dive into it. All right, rewards can be one of two things. They can be extrinsic rewards. Okay, an extrinsic reward is a valued outcome that is provided by somebody else. Okay, so if somebody else is giving you some sort of reward, and remembering that a reward is an outcome that has positive value. So if somebody else is giving you something that has a positive value to you because you have done something, then that is an extrinsic reward. And the promise of an extrinsic reward creates motivation for us. Okay, in business, we often get these from our bosses and our supervisors. Okay, that is our paycheck. Okay, the promise of being paid, that is something of value that I am given at the end of the week for doing my job. Okay, it could be recognition, like being called Employee of the Month. It could be getting a parking spot or a staff party or an employee discount. It could even just be being publicly recognized by the title that you are given for working there. And it could just be praise, somebody saying good job to you. Okay, so again, an extrinsic motivation, it can be something physical like that paycheck. It can also just be recognition, praise. It can also just be approval. When we're looking outside of business, we often look for extrinsic motivation from people of significance in our lives, like parents or spouses or partners, okay, for their approval. Okay, and when we talk about motivation, again, this is us being motivated, getting us to do something. Why are we doing that? Because of the promise of or the thought that we would receive some sort of reward from somebody else, recognition from somebody else, approval from somebody else, something physical from somebody else. All right. Whereas intrinsic rewards is something of value that comes from within you. All right, so the concept of motivational rewards says that everything that we do, everything that we are motivated to do, comes because of the thought of or promise of one type of reward, either intrinsic or extrinsic. Okay, so when we think about our own lives, okay, why did we get out of bed in the morning? Okay, why did we sign up for this class? Okay, what are we getting out of it? Okay, some of you may have situations with parents or guardians where you're going to get some sort of money, or maybe you're going to get a scholarship for university if you get a certain level of grades, or you're just going to be looked at fondly, or you're going to get an Ontario Scholars Award or an honor roll. Those would all be extrinsic motivations. Those are coming from somebody else. Whereas an intrinsic motivation is something that comes from within ourselves. So in a business environment, this would be a sense of personal satisfaction, being interested in what we're doing, meeting personal goals that we set for ourselves, a sense of accomplishment, of growth, even a sense of superiority. And when I say that one, a lot of people have a negative tone to that concept, but it doesn't necessarily need to be, okay? That internal satisfaction you get from being better than someone else, that's a sense of superiority, might be a motivation for some people, all right? And so again, this theory is saying it's either going to be one or the other. So I want you to pause for a moment now and think about your own life and the majority of the things that you do. Which type is motivating you? Right? In our current society, we are seeing more and more of an emphasis on extrinsic rewards, and that being our motivation. What is interesting is that humans are born being intrinsically motivated. Okay? And how we see that is when you look at babies. Okay? Babies and young children, they learn to talk. They learn to crawl or walk. They learn to do so many amazing things in the first few years of their lives. And the majority of those things are very intrinsically motivated, right? I in no way was able to tell my baby, like, hey, I'll give you extra milk if you can figure out how to sit up. My baby was just motivated to figure out how to do that. They probably wanted to see things. I don't know what was going on in their brain, but they figured that out. Okay. And yes, as they got older, my excitement when they did stuff probably motivated them to do it again, but it took them doing it the first time before they even realized there might be an extrinsic reward available to them. Okay. And science has shown that their brains are just cognitively not developed enough to even understand an extrinsic rewards in those first months and even year of their life. And yet we see them learning and doing things. They wake up, they do things, they search people out. Okay. And that all comes from an intrinsic motivation. However, we now see students, especially students coming into high school, that are completely or almost completely extrinsically motivated. And why? Because we have taught them to be that way. Our society is full of extrinsic rewards. Okay, we are training kids from a very young age. Okay, the concept of getting an allowance to do chores around your house, the concept of grades in school is an extrinsic motivation. All right. And I'm not saying that because I'm being critical. I mean, I'm personally giving my daughter chocolate every time she uses the potty instead of going to the washroom in her diaper because I want her to be able to do that. I am using extrinsic rewards with my own family and my own children. So I'm not criticizing it. We're just recognizing that we are training young students and children into high school students to be very extrinsically motivated. All right. And I see this in the students that I have in front of me. And again, there's zero judgment. We're looking at why we are this way. Okay. This is any student that's ever been motivated to say, does this count for marks? Okay. This shows me that we're extrinsically motivated because without that promise of marks, we are not motivated to do this task. All right. What's interesting is that even though we start intrinsically, we then train to be extrinsically, that when we get into the business world, we desperately want employees who are intrinsically motivated. Okay. I think employers recognize they're never going to get people to work for free. Okay. However, the more intrinsically motivated somebody is, the harder they're going to work. All right. You can always have an extrinsic reward for them. But each time a person meets that, you then have to come up with something else. Whereas if you have somebody that is intrinsically motivated to get this done, to want to do well, to want to do better, to want to create, they are statistically shown to work way harder and for less. And as an employer, that's something that we want. All right. So how are we going to do this? Okay. There's lots of talks about trying to reverse some of the training that we've done. Okay. There's lots of revisions to parenting and early childhood education and even in high schools. And you may have had experiences yourself with a high school teacher who doesn't want to give you grades. All right. This is that movement away from that intrinsic reward motivation, wanting to teach you to be intrinsically rewarded and motivated through that. However, the complete removal of the reward that has always motivated us isn't always going to teach us. It has to be a process. All right. And so this is a chance to do a little bit of reflection for yourself. Okay. How have you been motivated throughout most of your life? Hopefully there's been a balance. Likely there are things that you do because you love them. Okay. Hopefully there's a hobby. Maybe there's a sport. There's something that you do. Okay. And there's other things that you might have a combination of. You're extrinsically motivated, but there's also a level of, yes, I could hand in this assignment at this level, but there's something in me that wants me to do it a little bit better. Okay. So there could be that combination of it as well. Okay. And then think about it. Do you think it sets you up well? Okay. And if not, what could change? What should change? And is this something you can ask for in your life? Okay, whether it's something to do with your family, whether it's something to do with the structure of your life, whether it comes from that control element, are there things that you want to learn to be intrinsically motivated to do, and how are you going to go about doing that? All right, so take a few minutes to reflect on that and look at your life as a whole, and we'll see you in the next one.